Dog freaks out and drags woman on the sidewalk. Amy Ryan was just walking her dog, Molly, like on any other day. But then a huge bang startled the big dog and began a chain of events that would leave them scarred for life. The dog jumped off, scared, dragging the woman from the sidewalk as she tried to hold it. She had no idea what caused the behavior, and when she saw the look in her dog's eyes, she knew something was very wrong. Amy Ryan was an active single woman who was used to doing everything by herself. It had been like that since her childhood when her father left her family and she had to pitch in to take care of her younger siblings. No one really took care of her. It's something she had gotten used to. Still, things would drastically change in the woman's life after she decided to bring in a new member into her small family. Amy decided to enlarge her one-member family by adopting a dog from the local shelter. She drove there one morning without any big expectations. She had never done anything like this. When she entered the shelter, the woman noticed that it was full of all kinds of dogs. But one caught her attention. It was sitting on the back of her cage, not moving a muscle. She asked the shelter about her situation, and when she heard her story, she adopted the dog on the spot. The dog had been abused in the past, and no one wanted her due to her dangerous size. She was a big female dog who had been through a lot, just like her owner. The two connected instantly, and Amy didn't feel so alone anymore. She named the dog Molly and bought her the best toys from the pet store. She had no idea how interesting her life would become because of the dog. Amy knew that her dog, Molly, had been through a lot, but she thought she'd be able to leave some behind by living a happy, comfortable life beside her. She couldn't be more wrong. And she realized that when they first encountered a teenager on one of their walks. Molly wanted to get away as soon as possible, and she was visibly terrified. Amy had no idea what was going on. It must have been trauma from Molly's past resurfacing. At first, Amy didn't think much of Molly's weird reaction. She realized she needed to be more careful in the future and try to keep her away from any teenagers. But would she manage to pull it off? There were quite a few teenagers in the neighborhood, and she had to plan her walks very carefully not to scare Molly. At least until she would warm up to them. But it happened again. On another walk, just 1 week after, Molly saw a group of teenagers on the other side of the road and suddenly stopped. The dog stared at the boys for a while and then began barking at them. Amy was worried she might hurt someone, but that wasn't the case. At least not this time. Amy kept the dog in her yard for a while, thinking she would calm down a bit. But things didn't end there, though. One evening, when she came back from the corner shop, she heard Molly barking loudly. What was happening? When she reached her home, Amy quickly realized that a bunch of teenagers from the neighborhood was teasing her dog. She got angry and shooed them off, telling them to learn how to behave and leave the poor animal alone. A few days later, 2 angry women showed up at Amy's door. They were unhappy with her dog's presence in the neighborhood and said it was dangerous. Amy couldn't believe what was happening. She explained that she should be the one mad because she caught teenagers from the neighborhood teasing her dog. The dog only barked at people sometimes, but she never hurt anyone. Amy finally took Molly out again. She looked beforehand and noticed the street was empty, so she thought everything would go smoothly. She was wrong. Her dog started barking hysterically and began dragging her on the grass. The woman could barely hold Molly. She didn't think she was so strong. But when she turned around, she finally understood why her dog acted this way. The woman was eventually dragged down on the grass, and then a car hit the sidewalk at high speed. If Molly didn't drag her out from the sidewalk, she would have been hit. The woman was still in shock. She came to it when Molly began licking her. She just realized she had avoided a huge tragedy. And all thanks to her dog. At that point, Amy realized why the dog was acting out. Molly was trying to save the woman, and by dragging her away from the sidewalk, she avoided being hit by the speeding SUV. The dog was her savior, and she didn't know how to thank her better. While Amy was kissing her dog and checking if she was hurt in any way, the driver of the car quickly left the scene of the accident. Amy quickly called the police, and people started gathering around as well. There were visible signs of the accident all over the sidewalk. The lamppost was broken, and bushes were all torn out. But it was difficult to identify the driver as Amy was so scared at the time she couldn't remember the license plate number of the black SUV. But then the cops noticed something. The cops who showed up at the scene realized that a local shop had surveillance cameras installed outside, so they decided to check those for some clues. Thanks to the footage, they apprehended the suspect and brought him in front of the law. But the cops realized something else as well when checking out the video. When looking at the video, the cops realized that Molly, the dog, was a hero. She dragged her owner outside harm's way as she noticed the car before her owner did. The footage was shared on social media, and it quickly became viral. Everyone was praising Molly and said that Amy was a lucky woman to have such a furry friend.